Hey guys, Wild Ox Studios here, and one of the Patreon members asked if I could do a video on how to uh, migrate or incorporate the ALS into the Ready Player Me version 2 tool. So first and foremost, I don't have Unreal Engine 5 anymore. I only have 5.1, which is fine. Ready Player Me version 2 does work with Unreal Engine 5.1. If you follow the Visual Studio tutorial on how to compile a project, the Visual Studio 2022 setup, whenever you go to open the U project, it's gonna basically ask you which engine you want to run it for. Just select 5.1, Unreal Header tool will pop up and it'll build out the engine for you. It'll give you a warning about the plugins being compiled for a previous engine version. You just, when it asks if you'd like to rebuild those as well, you just hit yes, and then you should end up with and ignore this for a second, you should end up with the Ready Player Me tool loaded up, and we can say that for right now. You should end up being here, right? And this is going to be all working in Unreal Engine 5.1. So at this point in Epic Launcher, you'll go grab ALS. Now, I don't have Unreal Engine 5, and ALS doesn't have a 5.1 version. So what I did was I went and got Unreal Engine 427. And then from here, you just open the ALS project up. You right click this parent folder here, and then you migrate. So you'll hit this migrate button, and it'll be like, hey, we want to migrate all this stuff. I've already done this, but I'll go ahead and do it again, just so you can see. So you go out to the Ready Player Me v2, you go to the content directory, and you hit OK. And it's going to say, hey, assets already exist here. Do you want to override it? Yes. For you guys, it won't be like, it won't try to override it because it's the first time you're actually there. And then at this point, you're going to be like, hey, I can go now to the level and the demo level and load it up and hit play. And for me, I've already went through this process of fixing the action mappings, but I'm going to show you a little shortcut because Ready Player Me, the tool itself, it's a project, right? So it's only going to have what was included in the Ready Player Me project. So to get back to that, where I've added in all of these actions, we'll just go delete the new things that I added real quick so I can basically take you Alright, so this is where we are with the Ready Player Me tool. It's move forward, move right, turn and look up, jump and sprint. Like, that's pretty much all you have. And if we go to the base blueprint for the character logic in ALS base, you'll see when I go to compile, you're going to get all these input action warnings. And there's two ways you can handle this. You can go in and manually create these actions, which takes a really long time. But I'm going to show you a little pro tip here. If we go out to the ALS config folder and you go to default input and you edit this, at this point you can pretty much go find the actions. So from here, you can see stance action, aim action. Looks like we're going to need all of this. Ragdoll action, open overlay menu, move right, move backwards. None of these are named the same as what we're using in the Ready Player Me tool. So the easiest way to do this is just grab the action names that you need. That's going to be after this double click time. And we're going to copy this. Now, we already have like jump and walk and all that stuff in our Ready Player Me tool, but it doesn't matter because the names aren't going to be the same. It'll just be two actions bound to the same input with different names for the two different systems. So we'll, cross that bridge when we have to later on. So we'll go edit this, scroll back down to the double click time. I'm gonna hit enter here. I'm gonna paste this. We're gonna close. And at this point, we'll have to reload the Ready Player Me tool. That's fine. So this should at least save you a little bit of time as far as having to go and manually set that all up. So if we go to the maps for Ready Player Me, example map, and we hit play, all of this should still be functioning. We can test this out real quick. So all of this is still working, I think. Yep. And then if we go to Advanced Locomotion System and we go to the level, we pull up the demo level. And another way to confirm this would be go to project settings and go to your input actions, and you'll see all of these new actions in here. So it looks like it did load these up correctly. And then if we hit play, you'll see everything now is working. We'll just do the rifle and the aim. All right, so this system is all set up and ready to go and working, and we can go check the blueprint. I'm pretty sure we're not going to have any errors on the base character. We should be good to go. And then the controller also has the HUD overlay. Looks like it's compiled fine too and good to go. So there's a lot to cover in a very little bit of time, and I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. So like little tips like that are probably going to be littered throughout this whole video. So the next thing is this is where you would take a step back and you would say, okay, I have two different projects with two different game modes, two different controllers, two different characters, right? And you're trying to bring these two together. And you have two different skeletal systems, and the easiest way is probably for me to just show you that real quick. So if we go to the Ready Player Me base, we select the mesh, we can browse out to them really quickly. So that's a little shortcut on how to get there. You'll see his skeleton, and we can just close out of some of these other things here, and then I'll use the base to find the, actually it's not in the base, it's gonna be in his actual child character. So here's the skeleton. So you'll see that like ALS is based on Epic's skeleton, and he's got some virtual bone curves here. And I want to say the mesh, he actually has both the mannequin and his own mesh tied to his skeleton, which again isn't too far away from Epic's default skeleton. So the reason why I wanted to go over that is because now you're gonna have to say, okay, I want all of the animation blueprints and the functionality of ALS to remain intact. That's the whole point. But I want the functionality of Ready Player Me system to run on top of that. So you could use the retargeting system to accomplish that goal and basically re-implement all of this virtual bones, all of the blend spaces, all of the animation blueprints, which would be a nightmare, frankly speaking, to work with this Mixamo rig, which is what Ready Player Me's skeleton's based on. Or you could use some of Unreal Engine 5's new tools to do what's called a live retarget. And I have a video up that speaks just on that. I can't remember if I did it for the Couch Co-op template or if I did it for another template. But it is going to be under my tutorials video. Now, good news is that I'm probably going to go over all of that again. So anyway, skeletons are different, so we'll have to handle that. The other thing that we're going to need to do is implement the differences in the way the game mode handles things. So it looks like he doesn't have anything really in his game mode, and the Ready Player Me toolset does. So because of the way the Ready Player Me character is loaded in, based on the GLTF download callback from the HUD, the build avatar function is called from the game mode after the callback. So this logic's going to have to be pulled over into Ready Player Me's game mode, or the Ready Player Me game mode is going to, the ALS game mode is going to have to inherit from this Ready Player Me game mode. So that's something we're going to have to think about. And this build avatar function on the controller is going to have to be pulled into ALS along with the spawning logic. So anyway, that's a brief overview. I'm going to pause the video for a quick break and collect my bearings on which one of these tasks I want to tackle first. And yeah, when I unpause, like, it'll be instantaneous for you, but we'll kind of head down one of these courses of actions and get that accomplished. Okay, so the next step is probably going to be creating the rig. So if you go to the Ready Player Me content underneath plugins, and if you don't see plugins, you'll likely have to show plugin content. So it's right here underneath this settings. So once you're in the plugin folder, you'll see character, full body, mesh. Inside of there, you'll see the RPM Mixamo skeleton. And a really quick way to get there is just go to the mesh inside of the Ready Player Me base tool and hit this little browse button, and then you'll see the skeleton sitting right beside it. Anyway, so we need to set up an IK rig. That's the new UE5.1 retargeting system. That's kind of what they've called this now. We used to have these bone mappings. I think this is deprecated or experimental. It may be able to be used, but I know we're going to need this for bone chains and stuff with the new system. So where you can find that is underneath animation and then IK rig, and you'll have these two options. So you'll have the rig and then you'll have a retargeter. We'll come back to the retargeter. So create IK rig and then just name it. I've named mine RPM rig, and then we'll double click this. Your screen's probably going to look like this, and you're going to have, like, all of your current RPM tool animations in there. I'm going to pause this for now. And what we need to do is create some bone chains so that the retargeter knows how to link the chains between the two skeletal systems. Let me see if there's anything here. Nah. So we'll add a new chain. I'm pretty sure we need to right click and set the, it's going to either be the armature root or the hips. I want to say Mixamo freaks out because the armature root doesn't always link up directly with Unreal Engine. So we'll do the retarget root as the hips for right now. So you'll see it listed here. And then we're going to make a new chain, and I'm just going to call it spine. So spine to spine bone 2 looks good. It looks like it said spine. I need the whole chain, so this needs to go to spine 2. Needs to start at spine 1 or spine and go all the way down the spine goal. Why is that? Hold on. This is a little different in 5.1. No goal. Yeah, from spine all the way down to spine 2. I don't know why it added this spine goal. I don't need that. That can go bye-bye. Okay. So that looks good. We need a neck. No goal. Neck and I want to say the head is the end goal. Neck to head. So let's do this. Actually, I want to rename this because this is technically the head chain. And it's going to start at the neck and go up to the head. Yeah. And then we need an arm L, our left arm. So let's do arm underscore L. And this needs to go from the clavicle, which is going to be the left shoulder, and it needs to end at the hand, so it's the left hand. And then we'll do the same thing for the right arm. And we'll do right shoulder to right hand. Then we need legs. So leg L. This will be the left up leg all the way down to the left foot. We'll add another chain for the leg R. This will be the right up leg all all the way down to the right foot. Pretty sure. That should be good. Okay, and I'm going to save this really quick. Retarget hips. And we're not gonna need to do this for the ALS skeleton. So let's browse out to this asset. It's here. It's weird that there we go. That looks more like it. So we'll do this again. We'll go create a animation IK rig and select him. We'll name it ALS rig, and we have to repeat this process again. I'm not gonna force you to go through this. I'll pause the video here and then I'll unpause it once I have the chain set up. Okay, so I have these chains set up. Pay attention to the naming, right? So if you go here, you'll see that spine, head, arm, leg, leg, all of the names are the same. Now the order is going to be different. That doesn't really matter as long as your names are the same, and then your start and end bones are the appropriate bones on the start and end. And you can pause the video here and look at this setup, but it's the same: clavicle to hand, thigh to foot, spine through spine, neck to head. I did the retarget root as the pelvis. I don't know if that's going to work out for us or not, but we'll find out right here in a second. So all of this looks good. So now what we're going to need to do is at a project level, we're gonna have to say how are we gonna handle where this retargeter lives. And I guess since we're technically retargeting from the Ready Player Me mesh to the ALS is what we're gonna end up doing. We want to make the Ready Player Me Mixamo skeleton be able to copy the poses from the Unreal Epic skeleton, because I think that's going to be the easiest workflow. Most people on Epic stores going to have animation assets off the marketplace, so likely that's what we'll do. So yeah, I'm gonna create the rig, probably tucked off in the character assets folder over here in ALS, just to kind of keep things organized in a way where I think I'll be able to find it. So let's go to animation and we'll go to IK rig retargeter, and it's gonna say pick an IK rig to copy animation from, and we want to be copying from the ALS rig. So ALS to RPM. All right. Right here, we want to pick the Ready Player Me rig, and it's automatically going to fill in your mesh and it's gonna automatically fill out your chains once you get that done. So everything looks good now. This is really weird. So we didn't have this edit mode in Unreal Engine 5, so this is a little different from UE5 to UE5.1. Kind of strange. Looks like we have some mesh offsets. Yeah, this is a little different. So yeah, let me pause real quick and get my bearings, because what you used to be able to do is there was an animation, like you could go pick an animation to play and you would see the result of the animation play out in the retargeter viewport. Huh. So let me see something. If I go into edit mode, looks like we need to raise the left shoulder up, or the, I'm sorry, the left shoulder. That's not really going to be his shoulder, it's going to be the arm. Because what you want is for these poses to be as close as possible. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, obviously, but you do want them to be as close as possible, so that whenever the animation vectors get translated into the bones local space, the animation playback will be okay. So all of this looks good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how to get like the preview of the animation running so I can see how this is actually going to turn out whenever it's retargeted. So 1 second. I know it should be actually in this I'm stupid. Okay. Now that we have the pose modified and it's really close, we should be able to highlight any one of these ALS animations. I'm going to try to find one that makes sense, because a lot of these are going to be like partial blends for the way the animation blending works with ALS. So look, we got some run backwards animations here. Yeah. Okay, so aside from the finger chains, which it looks like we're gonna have to set up to get appropriate finger retargeting, that doesn't look too bad. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with this. One thing you'll notice is the fingers aren't solved for on the hands. So we will likely want to go take care of that. Alright, so we can stop this. And we'll hop back over to the rig. It's so weird that I'm still playing this animation. Alright, so we're reset here. Now we need to go solve for these finger bones. And the same rules are going to apply here. I'm not going to make you watch all of this, but basically you're going to want to pick the top part of the index finger and the bottom part of the index finger, and you'll name it, you know, R index, L index, etc. So I'm going to pause the video here and I'll unpause it once I get that set up. Alright, so I've made my way through this list. I just wanted to point out a quick little note. If you highlight this before you hit the new chain, you can name it and then hit OK, no goal, and then down here you just got to change the last bone. Now in the Mixamo, another note, in the Mixamo skeleton, the very end bone is like not, I don't think it maps to the Unreal Engine skeleton very well, and I can't remember if it's just like a tip, like an end that's on a bone, or if it's like one of the middle bones. But I do remember working with Mixamo skeletons before, and like I think we omit the fourth bone in the chain, but once I get the other skeleton rig set up, we'll be able to know for sure. Nice thing is too is it lists the mappings here, so you can make sure you have all your bases covered. We won't have eyes or anything like that for right now. So we're good here, and I try to follow the same naming convention for all of the additional finger stuff. So index, middle, pinky, thumb, ring, and there's an underscore R and an L. So when you're setting up the ALS one, you just want to do the same thing. So I'm gonna pause, do that real quick, make my way down that list, and I'll be back in a second. And I figured I'll show you this real quick, so show you how quick this can be. So if you highlight the bone over here, you hit add index underscore R, hit OK, no goal, drop this down, select the third bone, highlight this, new chain, same thing, middle, and it kind of already gives you the name of what it is you're setting up, and then you just drop it down, go over here, same thing. And this way you can kind of sequentially go through each bone and make sure you don't miss any of them. Did we already have a thumb? Right, we do. We already have one. Why is that? Thumb R. Oh, it's the wrong bone. Yeah, so let me correct that. Didn't follow my own rules. So now we need to go do the thumb L. I must have typoed that. Thumb L. Alright. All the indexes. I think. Index, pinky, ring, thumb. Okay. So we'll save this and we'll go back to the retargeter. We got to go back to the chain mapping, and let's see if it can auto map these now. Looks like it can. All right, so we'll go back to run the retargeter, and we should now see the fingers doing what you want them to do, the thumbs, and we can make some fine-tune adjustments later on to get this, you know, closer to in parity with what we have going on. But for right now, this is looking pretty good for me. So congratulations, that part is done. Now we could retarget all of these animations over and use the Ready Player Me system. Not smart to do. Basically wanted to just go ahead and get the rigs compatible with each other, because there's something that extra that we can do now that we have these rigs set up and the retargeter set up. So I'm gonna take a little break because the video is going rather long for me. You guys have a lot of pauses, but when I unpause, we'll probably dive into moving the mesh over to ALS, and then tying in the Ready Player Me function calls from the HUD to the ALS blueprint, so that whenever you make the selection from the HUD, it's now driving the ALS system that will now have this Ready Player Me mesh in it. So yeah, when we unpause, that's where we'll be. Okay, let's dive right back into things. Now that we have this done, let's go back out to this skeleton and browse out to where he is, and you'll see this animation folder. I'm pretty sure in the tool set I have some retargeted animations, so let's go here. We do. We have the original mannequin animations, then we have this retargeted folder. Let's see. Let's go ahead and stick it in the retargeted folder just so we know where it is. Because we're going to be basing everything on the advanced locomotion thing, we could technically put it in the character assets folder. Because there's two animation blueprints here. So what we're gonna need and just bear with me for a second, I'll explain it, is we're gonna need a new animation blueprint, and this blueprint is gonna be based on the Ready Player Me Mixomoskeleton. But it's gonna be a very, very simple blueprint, and what this is gonna allow us to do is just copy everything from the ALS animation blueprint. That thing is a beast if anybody's familiar with it, so this is probably the easiest course forward for doing something like this. So yeah, we'll name this RPM copy pose, and this is going to be a very easy blueprint. So we should be able to do retarget pose from mesh and just wire this up. Hit OK, and it doesn't have a retargeter assigned, but that's because we didn't assign one, but now we do, right? So I'm pretty sure that's all we're going to need for now. So now we're gonna jump back out into the ALS. Actually, I need to save this, and I need to save this. This is the Ready Player Me controller, ALS game mode. You know what? Let's close the tabs to the right and just get back clean here. So we'll get this Animan character BP. We can't, because this is a child of the parent, I don't want to do this step in the parent or the base class. I need the class that's gonna have the skeletal rig on it. So let's go edit this guy. And of course he has this big, this is a child blueprint, right? So that's fine. We'll go look at the viewport here. He has a body mesh, held object, skeletal mesh, and it looks like his normal mesh is this character mesh here. I don't want to mess with the visual mesh part. I'll have to look at the base class and see what he's doing here. He may be using this to set that other skeletal mesh. Let me see if there's any references. Okay, so he's just setting the visibility of this mesh based on if you hit the M button to change the mannequin. And then he's setting the original mesh to hidden, which I would have just set the mesh to the mesh, but maybe there's a reason why he's not doing that. Maybe he has references to the original mesh. Set leader pose component. Materials. Yeah, so that might be why he's doing this. He has coloring and everything else on here. So, okay. Yeah, so we could modify this. And just use the logic that he has set. It would be interesting to see if that's actually going to work versus having to use the retargeter animation blueprint. Let's see. Doesn't look like we have access to the retarget profile, but the set leader pose component might be compatible. It's a good question. So let's just do this. This could blow up really badly without having the animation blueprint that I'm talking about, but I just want to test this out real quick. Yeah. Yep, figured. Okay, so we can't do it that way. I'm gonna set that back to mannequin and compile. That's fine. So what we are going to do is add another skeletal mesh component here. And this I'm going to name RPM_mesh. And then we are going to set it to the RPM Mixamo skeletal mesh. And then on the animation blueprint, that's where we created that copy pose blueprint. And we're going to compile this. And as you can see, now we have both the Ready Player Me character and the original ALS character here. And this is what we wanted. However, we still have the original blue guy here. So there's two things we can do. We can set the visibility for this guy off and you can toggle it on. But if you're basically integrating this or making this your guy, your character, and you want Ready Player Me to be loaded into this going forward, you don't want to have to hit like buttons to toggle things back and forth. You want it to be integrated and you want him to be loaded up. So we'll go to the parent mesh and we will set visibility to not visible. Or you could just do hidden in game. I mean, it's completely up to you. So now if we hit play, you'll see that we have everything working. Animations are good. And this is just your base mesh, right? So let's pull out the rifle. Let's aim the rifle. I don't know. Let me circle around. Yeah, it's close enough. I didn't know how good the hands were gonna be on the rifle, but it's pretty close. Now, the closer you get his hands in the retargeter, the closer he'll be lined up with the way he's holding the gun. Let's go pick a pistol. Yeah, so you can see there's a little bit of an offset there on the skeleton, and it's gonna be in that logic that is spawning the gun and attaching it to the skeleton. So let's go take a look at that. Maybe there's something we can do about that. It was in the controller, wasn't it? So if we go into Advanced Locomotion and we go to the character logic and we go to player controller. All right. So this looks like where it's cycling the state. Okay, so there's an interface on the controlled pawn for the overlay state. All right. So let's see if it's on the base or if it's on the child. So let's cycle. Nope. Might be on the base. Control find. Overlay state. Yeah. So here's a set overlay state. Here's the past end state. On state change. Set previous and new value. All right. We don't need this macro library anymore. So let's go look for the overlay state, because it looks like he has an enum. So here's here's all of the enums. Okay. Yeah, so there's two ways to handle this. We can be really finicky about the retargeter and try to get those hands, the risk, should I say, like very close. Let's clear this filter. All right. Where is that? So his hips are pretty freaking close. I mean, oops. I don't know why he keeps wanting to slide that up. I'm not trying to slide up. I'm trying to grab this yellow. Let me see if there. No, I can't move him. That's a little closer. Let's look at this left forearm. I'm gonna have to change this to like 5 degrees. and then right forearm. Yeah. Yeah. So as of right now, it's about as close as it's gonna get without, I mean, there's a length discrepancy here. So the only way to fix the length discrepancy is looking at the original mesh skeleton from the ALS system, right? And we're gonna have to copy these virtual bones and then modify the logic to attach it to the right skeleton's virtual bone, right? So VBLH IK handgun, we need to go to the ALS skeleton. So I mean, I'm sorry, the Ready Player Me skeleton tree, and it sucks that I cannot copy this bone. But we know it's under the hand L, so let's go find the hand L, our left hand. I can't remember if it, I don't like the way that one is looking, so yeah. So Animan hand L. All right. So we need VBLHS IK handgun. And we crashed. Let's go back to the level, load it up and see what we got. I don't know what all was saved. Oh, of course not. So we would do this again. Animation blueprint is right. Copy pose. Look at the viewport. All right, he looks really close. Good. We need to hide the other mesh. Okay, we are good. So the overlay state is here. Attached to hand is the ALS anim man character BP. Looks like he's calling a function for skeletal and static meshes. Doesn't look like he's doing any animation class overrides. Yeah, he's just calling each one of these based on the switch on overlay state, which is fine. So if we want to go look at the pistol H, looks like the M9. Clears the held object, sets the static mesh, attached relative component. So held object root looks like a scene component. And there's an offset. Doesn't look like the offset is getting updated. It's just being passed in. Let's find a reference here. Yeah. So what we'll need to do is change this mesh here to this on the attached to hand. But we need to add these virtual bones in without, and I'm gonna save this just in case the editor crashes again, without the editor crashing. So let's go back to this mesh, go back here, and we have him open, and then go back to the parent mesh, go back here, we have him open, and we need to get these hand R and L, it looks like, from this logic here. Handgun, handgun, VBIK, handgun. So it's not R and L, it's just handgun. So, all right. Where's that left hand? I want to select the whole thing. Why is it doing that? It's weird. Anyway, add a virtual bone. Left hand. Please don't crash. Nope, it's crashing. Now, if I can't add a virtual bone to this fella, the way that he has a virtual bone set up, we do have another option, because I don't think it's going to matter over whether or not it's a virtual bone or if it's a socket. So let's see. If we can add the socket. Okay. Now, let's rename this. Let me come here, rename. I just want to copy you. Okay. There used to be a socket editor. Hold on. Property matrix. I'm gonna pause it real quick, see if I can find that. Okay, so yeah, it's under window and then details. I don't think there's gonna be any other viewports, but when you have the socket selected, you'll see the socket name, the bone it's attached to, and its relative location. So if we go here, same thing. I'm gonna go to details and look at its stuff. IK handgun. It's weird because his IK handgun on the left hand is way over here. IK handgun on the right hand is 000. That's really strange. So anyway, I'm gonna copy this location. Doesn't look like that's gonna be right. So yeah, that's not gonna be right. So let's just see. what happens if we bring this over here manually. We can get kind of close. All right, so the offset's going to be completely off until I test it and figure out where it wants to be. Held object, attached to hand. We're gonna take the VB out. RHS, LHS. So I didn't see, there's LHS. RHS. It looks like he has them both on the right hand, but no matter, I'm gonna go to the right hand, create a socket. Don't want that. IK_IK_ handgun. Okay, so we'll save this up, and then here I'm gonna change this mesh with RPM mesh. I say I'm gonna do that if it allows me. It doesn't look like it's gonna allow me. And then I'm going to take the VB out of this, because as you can see, it's just a socket. Looks like the virtual bones and the sockets are about the same. So we'll go back to the map. We'll save all this stuff. We'll hit play. Let's go get the rifle. It's probably gonna be janked up. Yep, told you. And then the pistol. Okay. So we have some. Now the good news is that it is attached to him now. The bad news is we need to preview the asset on the socket and get the hand rotation right. That's easy enough. So let's go to this IK handgun, and we'll go to preview asset, and we'll, I don't remember what it's called. Great thing is we have the enumerator. Oh wait, no, because the enumerator doesn't specify the actual mesh. So we need to actually go find the name of the mesh. M9. All right, so now we see what's going on with this doodad. So let's go ahead and get this guy. At least somewhat rotated how I need it to be. So that looks like a good rotation. Let's was totally wrong. Unless it is the right hand. So let's do this. Yeah. All right. Let's see if that gets us any closer. It does. All right. So, and the good news is that it is directly related to the location of the socket as well. It's great news, because that just means we grab the socket and we scoot it up, and we try to get it closer to in the hand position that we want it to be at. Save and then hit play. All right, and now we are attached to him. All right. So hopefully this has gotten you guys in the right direction as far as like being able to straighten up the you know, get everything working with ALS and straighten up the gun actors. Rifle's probably gonna be, nope, it's not too horrible. I thought it was gonna be totally off, but looks like the left hand needs to be squared up. I don't think the left hand attachment is actually happening on the Ready Player Me skeleton. I think it's just the right hand. Bow's gonna be way off. Torch is way off. Yeah. So it's gonna be a similar process to straighten those up as it was for the pistol. The attached to hand logic for each of these, you double click that function, you go in there, it's going to pretty much attach to this component. You'll have to look at how it's handling. Okay, so left hand, each one of these, and it looks like the left hand, did I do that wrong? Oh, yeah, I need to, looks like the left hand socket just needs to be adjusted for these offsets to be correct. But you have the gist of how to get this corrected. So we have that functional, at least for the pistol, right? And for the sake of the video, I'm gonna move on. I may actually clean this up later. Shout out to all my Patreons. What I'll likely do is zip this project up and put it up on Patreon whenever I'm done with it, but wanted to at least go through this and kind of show how this is being done due to Patreon members requesting like a tutorial video on how to do something like this. So the next step is going to be finding a way to integrate the Ready Player Me HUD, which uses the BP HUD, right? So there is no HUD class in ALS. If I change it to BP HUD, it's going to load the avatar HUD menu because that's where all of that logic is implemented. So we'll go look at this real quick. So on begin play, it's going to go get the widget. It's going to, you know, ask you to select your avatar. And then on avatar generated, it's going to call get game mode and load avatar. Now, that is an interface on the game mode, which is, you know, BPI game mode interface, I believe. We can do one of two things. Like we can swap the game mode, which would have the interface implemented on it. I don't think, let's scoot this up here for now. I don't think ALS's game mode has any logic in it other than the controller is set and everything. So yeah, let's just take a stab at that. Let's go find the blueprints here for this game mode. Like, okay, so looks like it's calling to the controller, and then the controller is building the avatar. Cool. So let's do this. There's nothing really else complicated on here. There is a cast to the BPM Ready Player Me controller. So let's go look at that controller. Build avatar. Yeah. So there's so many different ways this can be done. I guess it depends on how you want to spawn your character, because the Ready Player Me tool spawns the character after the widget is loaded up. But I guess if you want, like if I wanted to simplify this and make it in a way that you could like not call the HUD on begin play, but just like call the HUD with an input, but you could technically call the HUD on begin play if you wanted to. I could take you through that process, and we likely don't even have to go through the game mode. We can just call load Ready Player Me on the pawn. So yeah, we'll go about this process. Like, so anyway, we've changed over to BP HUD. Let's go ahead and open this asset back up. So let's do this. We'll unpin begin play. and then we'll make a new key, right, that we can just press to open up the Ready Player menu. So let's look at, I don't need that. Camera, overlay menu, that's this guy. Debug view, show choices, show debug shapes, show layer colors, show character. Tab toggles to show HUD. So I wonder if that HUD so that's all the deep. Okay. We'll go back to designer. So horizontal box. Let's duplicate this horizontal box, and we'll change this show character info to select RPM avatar, and ZVTYUI it doesn't look like P is being used anywhere. Alright, so we'll make this P. And we'll compile this and save it. So now when we hit play, select RPM avatar is there. All right, so he has a style that's being shoved into here, which is the reason why some of those are gray and some of those are this color. Now we just need to know where the if it's in the player controller. No, it's not in the game mode. Maybe it is in the game, in the player controller. So character logic, player controller. I gotta hunt down these keys. So tab T, Y, U, yeah. Z, I. He doesn't have a event dispatcher set up. He is doing global time dilation here. On possess. Here's the ALS HUD widget. Add viewport. So let's look at those keys. So if I hit I, all right. So he is doing it, some stuff in the controller, which is cool. So we'll add the input for P, the P key. I gotta find the P key. P key. Where are you? One, two, three, four, five. Keyboard events. I need P. P, 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 P. All right. And I'm just gonna print for right now. Make sure we're getting the event. Yes, we are. All right. So now what we're gonna do. I wonder if I should just do this in the HUD itself. Curious now, because the HUD class is loaded up. I mean, technically we could pass an interface from the controller into the HUD. They already have an ALS HUD up there. We're going to be calling this to open and shut. So it's a good question. Let me see something. Let me see something. Oh, I know. Create widget was pruned. That's just a warning. Target. Circular throbber needs a connection because of look, just for the time being, we're going to branch around this logic just so I can get a print. Yeah, figures. Yeah, so we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to consume inputs on the HUD class itself. Because it's not really an actor. But that's cool because we can do this a different way. we're going to add a custom event. We'll just call this show RPM browser. And let me look to see if he's got any interfaces set up for, he's got an animation, character controller, BP. So he doesn't have a HUD interface. And we just have the game mode interface. So that's fine. We can just use the show RPM browser call, and then back in the ALS controller we can add our P back, and then P is going to be create widget, and then we're gonna select the RPM. Actually it's get HUD and then call the event, because it's the HUD. So cast to BP underscore HUD. And I mean, we could do this with an interface and just call the interface without having to cast, but what do we call this? Show RPM browser. Okay. So this should actually give me my hello. Yep. And it's going to create that widget, add it to the viewport. It's going to set the UI. It's going to bind to this event. It's going to do this, and then it's going to call load avatar on the game mode, which we don't want to do anymore. So the game mode load avatar essentially just builds the avatar on the RPM controller. So let's go look at the RPM controller, and this just says, okay, we're gonna spawn the Ready Player Me base, and then we're gonna call load RPM and possess, which we're already gonna be possessed, so we don't have to do that anymore. We need to look at this load RPM, because this function is going to have to be pulled Okay, so we need this component copied into the ALS character. So go back to your ALS character BP, which is that child, and we'll paste this Ready Player Me actor component. All of this should be good. Target skeleton should be fine. All of this other setup should be fine. So that should compile. Did he have a player interface? Animation character BPI. He does. He has a character BPI. So let's go look at that. BPI get current states, movement, rotation, gate, overlay state. Okay. the URL is what needs to be passed into load RPM. All right. So we'll just add the function BPI. And I'll make sure this is specified in a way that makes sense. And that is a string. I think we're calling this URL. Okay. All right, so we should be able to just get controlled pawn, or get pawn, get player pawn, that works. And then BPI load avatar. So we don't need that anymore. And then we'll wire up the target URL. And I will comment this. Now calling ALS character interface, just so that we know that's the new path we're on. And then in the event graph for this child object here, let me close out of some of this other stuff. BP HUD, we did what we needed to do there. Build avatars on the controller. This loads the RPM. So this is what we're gonna need now. I'm just gonna copy this whole function. This looks like a good enough place as any. And we're no longer going to be using load RPM. We're going to actually call the interface. So BPI load. And we're going to pass the URL here. We don't need this anymore. We probably don't want to remove all widgets. I mean, maybe. I think it's going to remove all of the overlays. That looks good. We'll see. It's probably gonna shit a brick. BP HUD. Oh yeah, we've branched around this, so we need to get rid of this branch. We actually don't need the hello call anymore either. Okay, so the problem is now it looks like we are loading into, yeah, we are loading into the static mesh here and not the all this looks good. We're not even doing this anymore. Okay, give me 1 second because it looks like I may actually have to expose a component for this Ready Player Me mesh, because I think by default the Ready Player Me plugin only updates the parent mesh of the character actor. So I'm gonna pause here, see if I can get something done for this. Okay, so where we left off, we were looking at adding the load RPM avatar interface call for the load new avatar. We had copied it from the RPM character base tool, and whenever we tried to give it a run, basically what happened was the Ready Player Me plugin that they provide, the SDK, this load new avatar function hard codes the mesh loading into the first skeletal mesh object that it finds within the actor. And what I did was I modified this load new avatar in C++, and I'll just show that to you real quick. So under the Ready Player Me component, actor component, what it was doing was just setting the skeletal mesh component to the first component it finds by class, that is a skeletal mesh. And I added this new section here to basically say iterate over all of the skeletal meshes make sure they're not null pointers. In the ALS, they have a couple of null meshes for weapon holders, and if it's not null, compare it to the target skeleton that we're setting up on the actor component, the skeleton of that mesh component, and if they're the same, that's the mesh component we want to use. And then I basically left the fallback code in here and said, if this doesn't happen, then go ahead and create the component. That way it leaves that legacy code alone. And then I added in the ability to pass the custom component into this setup mesh component function. So I'm actually passing the mesh component we want to use into the return once the skeletal mesh metadata is returned. So I mean, that's a mouthful, doesn't really matter. What I'm gonna do is go through a little dry run so you can see how this is going to behave. Nothing really about this logic changed from copying it over to the tool to here. But yeah, we can hit play and we'll see how it goes. So you can see normally everything is working. I can select the rifle, run around with it, and then what we'll do is hit the P button to bring up the avatar selection that we binded earlier in the video. And I'll just go pick something else. Masculine, we'll go without a photo. And we'll pick Mr. Curly Hair here. And let's go ahead and pick a cool outfit. That's kind of poofy and cool. Hit next. And we have the avatar. And again, the remove all widgets thing, remove the top layer widget so you don't have the overlay shown anymore. So we'll probably have to go in and fix that. And also it looks like the load time is gonna need to be adjusted from what I can tell. Oh man, let's go back to this blue set here. So it looks like it's taken just a little longer to load than is being accounted for. Yeah. So you'll likely want to adjust that to fit with the load call. So you don't want to blend away from this overlay so quickly. So we'll give this about 7 seconds. And then here we won't remove all widgets. We will only remove the Ready Player Me HUD widget. So let's go there to this class. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we'll pass a reference from the interface of the widget of RPM auto. That's what we'll do. So let's go modify that interface. I mean, I guess we could do, hold on, remove from view. Yeah, so there's just not viewport. Yeah, we could pass a delegate. I guess we could do that to close the widget. It's probably just going to be easier to pass it through the interface though. So this is going to be of type BP WRPM auto. RPM. RPM. Object reference. What? I know I hit it. Auto. Object reference. Okay. Alright, so yeah, it doesn't work like a function. I'm actually gonna have to drag off here and go. try that again. Sometimes interfaces like to be strange when you've removed or added new. This blueprint is what? Blueprint itself is not a widget, therefore target must have a connection. Cannot override. Yeah, it's not there anymore. Implement event. Let's try that again. Declared and apparent with a different signature. But it's not. The only other thing I could figure is maybe the base has the interface declared. There's nothing there. It was just in the parent for whatever reason. So now, yeah, we should be good to go. Sorry about that, guys. If it ain't one thing, it's another. Let's save everything up. Okay, good here. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. All right. So now we still have our HUD up there, and we've loaded and unloaded the widget, and then we crashed. Let's try that again. I was about to be like time to push this up to Patreon and thank all of my supporters, but we'll go see if we can figure out what happened. Okay, so this is working. RPM widget is here. So let's go look at the HUD. Makes sense. That's not in there. Compile this and save. I think that was working a while ago. All right. So that looks good. Some different clothes. That's fine. Again, likely have to bump that time up. Sometimes it can take, depending on the type of mesh it is, it can take a little while. So you'll likely want to do something, bind a delegate to when this gets done, or bump that load timer up. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and zip this up, push it up to the Patreon. I want to say, thank you to everybody who's been a supporter. Thanks for the guys requesting for this kind of content. Apologize for the length of the video, but went over quite a bit here. And, for those of you who wanted to follow along, it's here for you. And an example project or the ALS integration of the tool will be up on Patreon. So thank you all. And have a great one.